recording hit. Okay. Welcome everyone to tonight's webinar, the Sex, Love, and Addiction 101 webinar with our host, Rob Weiss. I'm going to read the rules. I'm not used to doing this. So this session is a webinar. To begin with, Rob will speak for 5 to 10 minutes on the topic of the day, which he'll tell you more about. Then we will open things up for questions on that or any other topic that is of interest. To ask questions, we suggest you use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your video screen. That lets you ask the question anonymously, but it also lets us keep track of the questions. So if you'd use that feature instead of the chat, that's really helpful. If you want to communicate directly with me, with tonight's host, Rob, or anyone else in the session, you can use the chat feature, but please understand that the chat feature is not anonymous and others can see your name when you use it. And also, if you're asking a question, it won't necessarily get answered. So I think that's all we need to get started. This is being recorded. We've placed previous webinars on our sex and relationship healing.com website, so you can see those, but you are all anonymous, and so Rob will be seen, and I think I am too. I ask the questions, Rob answers them, usually in a generic fashion so that they're of benefit to the most people, rather than specific. This is not therapy. This is for educational purposes. We just want to be clear on that. So without further ado, Dr. Rob Weiss.
Almost 3 weeks. Good evening, folks. Welcome. Sorry, I'm actually in my bedroom. There you go. So now you know what my bedroom looks like. Because I was looking for a private space so I could be with you, and my house is busy. So glad to see you. Let me tell you what we do here. Every week on Monday night at 6 o'clock, I come and I answer questions. And I do this because I have spent about 35 years in recovery for sex and relationship addiction myself, and then another 25 years working in the field of mental health and addiction. And what I know is that there aren't many places where you can get answers to this or feel even comfortable asking the questions about the very personal and difficult issues that we talk about. People don't go to AA meetings and talk about masturbation. People don't go to your average therapist and talk about massive infidelity. It's just, you don't know where to go with this stuff. And so here we are. And I will introduce it, make a short introduction, only because I went to see A Star is Born last night, and I'm old enough to have seen almost all the other versions. And here's what I'll say. Not that you were looking for a movie review, but I think it's a great movie for this generation. It is absolutely made for this generation. And it's really interesting to be an older person, because when the Streisand version was out, I loved that. And now I've seen it and it's horrible. So I'm sure that this generation will think this one's horrible too in 20 years. I don't know. But the reason I bring up Star is Born is because this is a movie about a woman who falls in love with an addict. And then he fails her. And he falls apart. And not only does he fall apart in a personal way, he falls apart in a public way, which leaves her having to take responsibility. In other words, I think that when our partners hurt us, it's not just the relationship they hurt. You know, they hurt all of our relationships. Do I talk to my friend now about this or that, now that they know this or they don't know this? Or everyone I interact with, once I found out that my partner is hurting me with their behavior, it's a choice. Do I say something to them or do I not? Do I let them into my world or do I not? And, you know, certainly you also get to choose how you want to get help or not. One of the points that I just wanted to make because of the movie is that there are some women who don't have a choice. Meaning if you're married to a famous husband or someone who's well known, then everyone's going to know that he cheated on you. Everyone's going to know that he did what he did. And you don't have a choice of who you get to tell and who you don't get to tell. And so in some ways, the privacy of our lives is a luxury. It gives us a lot more freedom, I think, to turn to people when we want to, and have the ability to do that. And I was just feeling for those women, and there's lots of them in the news who are married to famous politicians and all that. You know, they're not just dealing with the wreckage of their husband's behavior on him and the family. They're also dealing with the wreckage of their husband's behavior on their lives and on their professional lives and on how everyone in the world looks at them. So betrayal, yeah, it comes in many forms. And the reason I think I brought that movie up is because I think when someone fails us that we love, our experience is universally the same, even if they've hurt us. You know, we are concerned for them. We do care about them. And it's confusing because some people might say, well, why would you love someone who's hurt you? Or why would you love someone who's disappointed you? Or why would you love someone who's let you down? And I guess I think it's important to acknowledge that everyone we love lets us down at some point or another. And everyone that we love deeply will hurt us at some point. And in the therapy business, interestingly, they have an expression about this. They say to us, if we screw up our relationship with you, the client, they tell, like I say the wrong thing to you and you're my patient and you get upset. They tell us this, and I think it's really important for you to hear. It's not about whether I make a mistake with you as my client and you get angry or disappointed. It's all about the repair. And so I'll say the same thing to you about the people that you love. They're going to screw up. They may have hurt you, and they may not be aware of or want to look at how deeply the pain has been caused. But healing is all about how they approach the repair and how able you are or willing you are to receive it. And when I say repair, I don't mean forgiveness, like, oh, forgive me, forgive me. That's not repair. I mean repair by the little actions that they take every day to make you feel more trusting, by being non-defensive, by being emotionally available, by showing up for their own recovery and their own healing. In every one of those ways, they are showing you that they wish to repair the relationship. And I'll say one more thing too. You know, you guys have known, some of you that I just wrote this book called Prodependence, and I've been looking a lot at partners of addicts and, you know, why stay with an addict? Why be with an addict? Why live through all of that? You know, and I think one of the things that has just come up for me so strongly is how almost instinctive or responsive it is in our culture when your partner has failed, meaning they're alcoholic, they're a sex addict, they get arrested, they stole from work, whatever it is that they did to fail you in the relationship, that you as a partner somehow get the tail end of that blame. And I don't really understand that. It's one of the things I'm fighting back against with Prodependency, is to say, I don't think anybody, any partner, any of you made your spouse have sex with someone else. I don't think that you have that power. You may make them disappointed or angry or upset with you or feel distant. You know, you could do all kinds of things to upset someone or even make yourself less attractive to them. But their decision to go out and drink, their decision to go out and have sex with strangers, their decision is their decision. And there is nothing, I will say it again, nothing any partner in this space can do to make one of us act out. So if we can lift that burden of stigma around addiction from partners, I will have considered myself to be a success with the work that I'm doing right now, because I simply don't think that you guys deserve not only the betrayal that you get, but then what's added to it, which is, oh, well, if she'd just been more like this or he'd just been more like that, none of this would have happened. And of course, that's absolutely untrue. So with that, I will say, Tammy, you want to launch into questions?
Sure. I wanted to tag on to that too. It's like, yeah, because, you know, I love the repairing relationships because, you know, we are all human and we all make mistakes. None of us, you know, as much as I try to do things that are loving and wonderful, you know, I'm in a bad mood or whatever, I say the wrong things, I'm snarky, whatever, you know, I have an opportunity to repair that. And it's not just continue on my merry way or whatever. So, you know, I want to be open to someone that wants to repair a relationship because I want to do the same myself. So yeah, great stuff. I can't wait to see the movie too. So
I want to add one more thing to that. Yes,
sure.
You're a child of the 70s like me. I wanted to add one more thing to that about repair. In just a second, I was thinking about it today. It'll come back to me. I just think that, you know, most of all, if you can take the burden off of yourself of any responsibility for the addiction and see yourself as a partner, as someone who's in circumstances where that are out of your control, that have negatively affected you, but where there's still love and affection and you want to jump in there and try to make it better, I think that's a fabulous thing. I know what I wanted to say. It's what a pastor friend of mine said, and I will repeat it. I was talking to a pastor friend of mine about betrayal and about partners experiencing the depth and pain and, you know, how hard that is for you guys and how, you know, instinctive it is to rage at us and all of that. And when we're having this conversation, and he said something that I would never say to you guys, but I didn't say this, he did. And so I can say this, and I will say I understand it, is that he said to me, you know, when I see a spouse in my office as a clergy and they're in deep pain and anger about betrayal, he said, I remind them that this is their marriage. And what he meant, I was like, oh my God, what do you mean by that? Because I'm so protective of partners. But he said, look, you know, everybody who gets married thinks they're living the dream in the beginning, you know, they're with the person they love, and that is their marriage. But when one of you falls apart, when one of you fails, when one of you doesn't show up, when one of you hurts the other, that's your marriage too. And like it or not, you know, good with the bad. And I say that because I've seen far too many couples, I think. I've seen a lot of spouses say, and this is the other side for you spouses, well, this isn't my problem. I didn't do this. I have nothing to do with it. So I don't need to work on myself, or he's the one who needs, or she's the one who needs to do the healing, and they can get back in touch with me, or we'll work our relationship out when they've got their shit together. And I understand that, but I really want to reinforce what Tammy said, is that, you know, you guys, you partners, you've been traumatized. You've been hurt by our behavior, and that is an issue that you have to deal with. And it's best if you get help dealing with that from a professional, just like we get help for our addiction, because you'll be able to be more forgiving, more supportive, more available, or express your anger in a healthier way by getting the help that you need to get because you've lived with us. I think part of the reasons that spouses often don't want to get therapy or look at themselves is because they're afraid they're going to be blamed for the problem, as opposed to being looked at as, wow, you've really been victimized in this situation, and let us hold you and support you. And that is what I'm hoping to move a little bit of the partners field toward, is let's love and support you partners. You've been victimized. And my hope is, with our love and support of therapy and counseling and the work that we do, that you will stand up and figure out how to make this thing work if it's what you want. So anyway, Tammy, I'm
going to actually tag onto that because I was talking to Kim Buck, and I'm going to say her name because she's planning on doing a webinar series for us. She'll have a weekly show to work with partners. So we're figuring out the details of that, but probably on a Thursday or Friday, and hopefully starting the next few weeks. So, but she said one of the things that she does is talks with people when they come in, and when it's so raw and you're so hurt and so angry, and she says, what is it about your relationship that is working? Because she said, I want to hold, you know, what did you fall in love with? What, you know, what is, you know, is it the kids, whatever it is? Because she said, I want to hold that for you while we work on all this other stuff. And I thought, wow, that's a really, and to me, it was a very powerful thing to even take a step back and go, oh, wait, I don't just hate you because you're horrible and all this. It's like, no, there was some, you know, there was something there, and there still is something there. I can't find it right now because I'm so hurt. So she's talking about holding that in a precious space while we deal with all the rest so we can find it. I thought that was great. So
it's a good therapy trick.
Well, I thought it was great.
What we do really is, what we're saying is, were there some good times? Could we talk about that first? And what it does is it brings into the room things that are other than the hurt, things that are other than the pain, things that are other, to remind the couple, yeah, you know, you guys had something here. And it had meaning, and we don't know if it's still there or not, but let's acknowledge that it was a living thing, at least at one point. But I'm thrilled, Tammy. I didn't really know that Kim had committed, and that's great because she is a fabulous partners person. So that's very exciting.
And she really understands codependence. So yes, and now I will get to the question. So all right. So this person says, my husband was well known in our faith community. He became terminally ill and he died. I found out recently that he was cheating on me in an online telephone relationship. How can he repair? He's no longer here to repair. So
I've heard this. I haven't heard the story a lot, thankfully, but I have heard it a number of times, often from a woman whose husband or boyfriend has died, and she is looking at a journal or going through a bill or going through some email. All of a sudden she finds out either something maybe went on that she didn't know about that was glancing and brief, or something long-term was going on that she didn't know about. And you're right. There is no repair. He's not living anymore. So you have to come to terms for yourself with what happened. And, you know, I think the hard part about that is it's really hard to hate people who have died. And when we love them and we appreciate them and the father of our children, all that stuff. And I think that, you know, we idealize people that we died. We only think good things about them. We try not to. Part of the healing in this situation is being able to really get angry at someone who's not here anymore. And that's a tough one because we want to hold on to our good memories, you know. And now not only are those marred by this, but you'll never look at your marriage in the same way. And he is not here to explain himself, why he did, what it meant to him, you know, all of that. So you've been stuck with a great big burden of grief, not only about the loss of your spouse, but the secrets that he took with him. And, you know, the only thing that I can say to you that might bring any comfort at all is, having been a good secret keeper when I was active as an addict, is that we keep our secrets in the hope that we won't hurt you. That's why we keep the secret. It's wrong. I get it. It hurts you more that you don't know. I get it. I'm a therapist. I understand all of that. But I also remember before being a therapist, before recovery, being the secret keeper who was acting out. And I know in my heart of hearts that I really believed that I was keeping that secret because you would be less hurt by, I'm going to do a double negative, you are better off not knowing, you won't be as hurt. And so if there's anything to hold on to, I guess in that situation, it would be that, you know, there's a reason he didn't tell you. And it was wanting to hold on to something that was very important to him that he had with you, because otherwise he wouldn't have kept the secret if he didn't give a shit what you felt or thought. I know we're not right to keep the secret, and it doesn't help to keep the secret, but I do think we keep the secret of our cheating because with the right idea in mind, which is we don't want to hurt you. Of course, the reality is we hurt you when we're cheating, not when you find out, but still there was an intent on in this man's heart to keep you safe from his brokenness. And, you know, I guess I would try to be grateful for that piece, is what I would say. And no, you can't repair it. It's gone. Yeah. And I'm sorry for that.
Yeah, me too. And I'm hopeful you have good support in your grief work as you're working through the grief of the loss of your husband, but also the grief of the loss of the relationship that you thought you had. So,
right.
Yeah. Okay. Next one. My husband is a sex addict, wants to continue communication with an ex-coworker. He's retired. She's requested, so the wife has requested that all contact and communication end since my husband acted out in an affair style with coworker's daughter. So this is apparently the mother of the old affair partner. He wants to talk to the ex-coworker regarding crossing boundaries with his daughter and him, but then wants to move, it must be the father, but anyway, but wants to move right along and continue with their friendship. It's triggering for them, so.
Okay, so that's horrible. It is unacceptable, would be unacceptable to me as a partner that my spouse continue communicating with people around the affair, even if it isn't with the affair partner. That needs to end. And your husband may say, and I'm making this up, well, I really love my workplace. There were a lot of good things that happened there. Some of these people are my friends. You know, I don't want to lose touch with them. Well, I'm really sorry, I would say to him. But you gave up that option when you acted out in the workplace, and you hurt your marriage and your relationship by doing that. So if your question is, do I have a right to say no? You absolutely have a right to say, this is not acceptable to me that you're still communicating. And the reason it's not acceptable, the most important reason, is because it upsets you. You know, I work with men who say, what's the big deal about porn? It's no big deal. It doesn't bother. It's not an effect, this or that. And then I talk to their spouse who's really angry, really hurt, feels betrayed, whatever the porn means to the spouse. And, you know, I'm not here to say that you should look at porn or you shouldn't look at porn or it's okay in a relationship or it isn't. But I can't help but be struck when a spouse is upset about something. Why would you not do everything you can to make sure that you make them feel better? So with the porn, it's like, you know, I say to a guy, like, I know you like porn, but put the porn down. At least long enough to figure out what it, you know, isn't it more important to attend to the hurt and the fears of your spouse than it is to go ahead and look at porn when you want? And so I would say to your husband, isn't it more important to work on healing with you than to maintain these relationships where he's already kind of poisoned the well. And isn't it more important to keep you feeling safe than to just do what he wants to do because he still wants to do it? And he may feel like, well, that's not fair. And you know what? His cheating was not fair. And that's when all bets were off on him having the choice about who he wanted to relate to in retirement. You get to call that shot for him because he is not trustworthy in this area. And you know what? Maybe 4 years from now, they'll have a work party and you'll be able to go. I don't know. But right now, he needs to respect and respond to your feelings because you are the important person in this equation, not his relationships with his work friends. Sorry, that's my definitive on that one.
No, I think that's all good. So, and then this one is more of a comment. So this person is mid-30s. My ex-girlfriend found out about 8 months ago, not really a question, more of a statement for others. He says, I wouldn't be where I am without therapy, accountability, partner forums, you, books, God, meditation, healthy hobbies. I'm a totally different person than who I was, and I'm forever grateful for all the partners ready to walk away. Give your partner a chance to change. It doesn't happen overnight, and the seeds of change take time to grow and establish strong roots. Give them a chance because they will be rebellious and make mistakes at first as their world has been turned upside down, just like yours have. If you really love them, stay by their side because you don't want to miss an opportunity to be with that person that they can become when they are truly committed to recovery. So that's it.
Well, I actually want to weigh in on that.
Yes, please do.
I was talking about codependence and about relationships where one person is an addict today with some colleagues, and the question came up, if you are loving a partner and supporting a partner, what do you do if the partner doesn't want to stay? Do you support that? And I absolutely believe that we do, support that. And I don't think that every partner needs to stay, can stay, or wants to stay. And, I also know that that's not something, here's a better way of saying it. I worked with a lot of couples that have not stayed together after profound infidelity. And it has been my universal experience, every single one of those couples, that they had profound communication, relationship issues, intimacy issues that went far beyond the cheating. And they probably were not going to make it as a couple anyway. I have seen very few couples, surprisingly, as you can imagine, break up over infidelity. I have seen couples break up over continued lying, continued infidelity, someone not coming clean and starting to work on it. But infidelity doesn't have to be a make it or break it. You get to be angry, you get to be hurt, you work through that. There's another side. However, and this is really important, if you are involved with someone who is not willing to own their part, who's not willing to take responsibility for their acting out, who's not going to meetings, not going to therapy, not giving you the truth, I wouldn't hang around for that. I mean, I would, because it wouldn't feel safe to me. If I don't know whether someone's lying to me or telling the truth, if I don't know if someone is going right when they said they went left, and if they're supposedly the closest person in my world to me, that's not something that I would be able to tolerate. So yes, I think it's important that couples really consider taking some time to look at all the things they have other than the cheating: family, kids, friends, community, church, jobs, hobbies, love, history, but none of that's worth a whole lot if the cheating doesn't stop and the relationship doesn't get on the right track. But if it does, there is something in what that person said. I know that none of you who've been cheated on will ever have the relationship you would have had that not happened. Because that naive sense of that person will never betray me, they're always going to be there for me, that goes away once you know that the person you loved really did betray you. They didn't have your back. They did let you down. And, they could do that. And so there's a sense of naive faith, I think, that couples have in each other that will never come back. It just can't come back. And once you know that this person can betray you, you know that. But I have seen relationships get so much deeper, so much more real, so much more engaged following this kind of a crisis. And so, it's really about, do you love this person? Do you still love who they are? And are they committed to the healing process? I mean, those are the questions I'd be asking myself. But I don't think every couple has to stay together, even if the person's trying. I have certainly seen enough partners say, hey, you know, I'm glad you're trying. I'm glad you're getting well. I wish you well. I hope you'll be a better dad to our kids, but I don't want to hang in for any more of this, and that's perfectly fine as well. It's case by case.
Agree. Good answer. So there's a question. How can I look at my husband's sex addiction? What does it mean to him?
What does that mean, do you think, Tammy?
Well, I think that's like kind of a foundational. What is sex addiction?
Okay.
So.
For someone who really is a sex addict, not someone who's cheated once or twice or looked at a little bit of porn, but someone who's truly a sex addict, what that means for them is that the seeking of sex, the fantasies around sex, the hunting, the searching, the looking at the porn, all of that is like drinking for an alcoholic. It is their way of emotionally stabilizing themselves and escaping. So even though it is about sex, and even though it does mean betrayal for you, I have rarely found that a sex addict is out there because they're looking for a better relationship or they're looking for better sex. They might say that. But what they're really doing over and over again is trying to soothe themselves, distract themselves, and emotionally escape from situations that they don't know how to handle. So I'll give you a personal example. I've had 33 years in program. I've had 25 years as a therapist and about 27 years in therapy. I'm about as processed as bologna or American cheese. I'm pretty processed. Mm-hmm. But I went to therapy to see my therapist about 3 months ago, and I had an appointment on Tuesday. That's when my appointment is. And I didn't realize that the week before I had canceled the appointment because I was going to be traveling. So I was that day later on. But in the morning I went to therapy because I thought I had a therapy appointment, and my therapist wasn't there. And so I texted her in therapy. This is me with all my recovery, all this year, all that stuff. And I texted her and I said, gee, you're not here. I thought we had therapy. And clearly I needed to be there and I wanted to talk to her because I went when we didn't even have an appointment. And she typed me back and texted. She said, I'm really sorry, Rob, but you said you're going to be out of town. We don't have an appointment today. And my next thought was, where can I find a hooker to have sex with? Not what am I going to do today, or I've got some free time, or I'm sad my therapist isn't here, or now guess what my emotional triggers are? Abandonment by a prominent, important female figure. My mother was mentally ill. She abandoned me all the time. So for me to be depending on someone and looking forward to seeing them, especially a woman who is there to give to me and be there for me, and then have her not show up, even though she was right and I was wrong, my next thought, didn't matter how much recovery I had, didn't matter how many years I've been in program, my next thought was, how can I escape by finding sex? The good news is when you have a lot of recovery, it's not that those thoughts go away, but I could say to myself, this is interesting. It's Tuesday, I'm in my therapist's office, and I don't think I was thinking about hookers on my way in, and I don't think that I'm particularly horny. So why am I thinking about sex? Oh, wow, it must have something to do with the fact that I was looking forward to seeing my therapist and she wasn't here. And then what do I do about this? Because now I'm vulnerable to acting out and I'm sitting here by myself with a free hour. What I know about my recovery is I pick up the phone, I call a friend, I say, hey, are you free? Would you like to have coffee? What's going on? And I engage. I don't expect at this point in my life that the desire to act out will ever go away, because I know that it isn't tied to you or our relationship, or it's tied to really deep broken fears inside of me that say when you're at your most afraid, think about sex. Something I learned when I was probably 4 or 7, you know? So what I do know though is I don't have to do it, and I can do other things, because what's really being pulled on my sleeve, and this is the answer to your question, the reason I wanted to have sex right at that moment was because I was feeling deep feelings of fear and abandonment, which I wasn't expecting to feel, and I really rely on this person. And those are a lot like the feelings I grew up with that led me to be a sex addict in the first place. So left to my own devices, I might want to act out again, and will, because things are going to come up in my life that are going to trigger that. It isn't about our relationship. It isn't about sex. It wasn't about my therapist. It wasn't about my love life. It wasn't about any of that. It was about when emotional experiences happen for me that are overwhelming on some level, my brain defaults to wanting to go to have a sexual experience, just like a drug addict thinks, where's the drugs? And it's simply about emotional escape and emotional stability. There's this illusion in our heads as sex addicts that if we go and seek out and have this experience, that somehow we're going to feel better, even though 9 times out of 10 we feel worse. So if that helps you understand it, I hope it does. It's not about sex. It's not about you. It's not about us. It's not even really about what's going on in my life in general. It's about something that happened that set me off in such a way that I got really scared, and that's where my brain went. Doesn't mean I have to do it.
And I appreciate that. You know, I was thinking while you were talking too, that I've talked to lots of addicts over the years, and we've talked about, like, it's like, thank goodness you had an addiction, because that was your only coping mechanism. That's probably why you're still alive in this moment. Was it an effective coping mechanism on some level, but it didn't completely work? But the other consequences could have been more dire. So it is a coping mechanism. It just becomes ineffective at some point along the way. But I agree. I've heard often sex addiction isn't about sex. It truly is just about escaping and
survival.
So,
And
yes.
I just want to say, like, when my mom wasn't there when I was 4 or 3 or 2 or 1, I had nowhere to go and no one to take care of me, and I had to go into my head to survive emotionally. So it makes sense that there might be times in life where I just disappear into my head because I'm not sure what to do next. The good news is that all the therapy and all the 12-step work and all the groups and teach me what to do when my brain says, go have sex with a stranger. Because it will say that sometimes. And I have to say, isn't that interesting? What does that mean? It probably means I'm needful. That's almost always the answer. And where can I go to get my emotional needs met without having sex with a stranger? Well, there's friends, there's sponsors, there's my family. I have learned that it doesn't mean that I'm horny. But some people don't know that until they figure it out.
Well, and that's true across any of the addictions. That, whatever your acting out behavior is, that's the first. I choose to no longer drink. My husband still can leave an inch of beer in a bottle, and it's still, after 37 years in recovery, it still bothers me. And I just have to go, that's just me. That's how my brain is, that he's wasting beer. That's still my first thought, after all this time. And I just go, oh, well,
And you know what, Tammy? That means you're an alcoholic.
I know, exactly.
Because you think that way.
I still think that way first. And then I go, it's his to waste. It's like, it's his choice.
Let me make a little plug here. And I haven't seen any new questions coming up.
I haven't either. Nobody else has any questions?
Well, I guess it's we're talking to each other.
Yeah.
So we're here every Monday. I'm here every Monday night. And you get this information through sexandrelationshiphealing.com. By the way, if you want to join the partners group that's coming up, starting in about a week, you need to be on the mailing list. Email us so that we can let you know as we add experts for partners or pastors or gay people or whatever it is we're going to add. You won't know about it unless you sign up. And so please do, and please send your friends. This is how we get to do this for free, is by growing our community.
Yes, and on Sex and Relationship Healing, you'll also, if you go on there and sign up, if you haven't already, you'll get notifications about all the webinars, but you'll also see all the podcasts. There's a number of podcasts. A new one is launching on Thursday,
on porn
addiction, which is, a great topic, but there's a lot of different topics, and there's some specifically for partners. There's a variety. So I hope you'll go check those out. There's also connections to blogs that are on there. That's another resource on there. So we'll continue to keep adding more content. So keep coming back. Still no questions. So any topics?
Well, I have questions.
Sure.
We got 2 of them.
It was.
Well, you know what happens if they don't ask questions, Tammy? Then I just start talking, and that's really bad.
Oh, so here's one quick. So
okay.
They interceded on you. My SA husband is struggling with scheduling weekly check-ins because he feels the story will be the same. Can you talk about the importance of sharing your feelings anyway?
And I'm just curious, when you say a weekly check-in, do you think that person means like going to a 12-step meeting,
I'm
or?
kind of thinking it's with a sponsor, but if this person wants to add on,
Yeah,
please
checking in,
feel.
can you say more about what you mean by checking in? That would be helpful. Um, but I'll say a little bit about it while I'm waiting. If it's checking in with you, I agree that there should be a time when a couple on a regular basis comes together and says, how are we doing with our recovery? And that you get to hear how he's doing and what's going on, you know, and how it's affecting and all of that. That a check-in for the couple helps grow trust, and helps reduce the fear.
It
But
is with the partner, so.
yeah, I think, you know, well, I don't like what I'm hearing already. My fear is your husband or partner has things they don't want to tell you, and that's why they're not wanting to meet with you. But if the goal is rebuilding trust, if the goal is repairing the relationship, not just shining you on, not just keeping you happy, but actually growing something with you after what has happened, then it's your spouse's responsibility to take the time and make the time to meet with you and open up about what's going on with him or her. And it's not like an option. You know, you kind of, and I mean to say this to him, he's not here, but you kind of say like, well, he's kind of opting out of doing that. He could do it, or he should do it, but he has to do this. If you need to meet with him once a week and talk about what was going on in his recovery in order to gain trust and feel safe, he has to do that, unless he doesn't want to gain trust and for you to feel safe. So again, it's kind of like the issue I brought up before about the porn. It's like, you know, it's not that I want to look at porn and look at porn that's important. It's that you're upset about it. That's what's important. And so it doesn't matter whether he wants to check in with you or he doesn't want to check in with you. He has a responsibility and a commitment to do that with you. He needs to do that. If that isn't something that he can feel safe doing with you at home, maybe you need to do it in a therapist's office, or with a sponsor from a 12-step program. You don't have to do it alone. But those check-ins are very important if you want to restore trust.
I agree. So, okay. When anger at my husband's betrayal surfaces in me, how can I deal with it since he's passed away?
I would suggest that you can deal with it in the exact same way that I would recommend dealing with it if you were alive, which is, I think every betrayed person, male or female, needs to have a cohort, a group of other people who have also been through betrayal. Because it's just so hard to be alone with these things. You know, it's so automatic to say, this is secret, this is icky, this is private, I don't want anyone to know. But it's so rewarding to hear that other widow across the room say, well, me too, my husband too. And you can't pay enough for that experience. So whether you're still in the relationship or you're not, or he's living or not, a support group where other women had experienced betrayal is where you'll find your healing. Because it's with those women that you will get loved. Those women are going to love on you. They're going to support you. They're going to identify with you, and they're going to go out for coffee with you. And they won't take the pain of your husband's betrayal away, but they will bring some lightheartedness to it and some connection to it that will make your life easier. So my answer is, you know, as a therapist, I could say, well, you could write your dead letter, write a letter to your dead husband and tell him how he hurt you, and, you know, read it, and you could work on it on your own. But it's always better to have other people around who've been through what you're going through. And I do want to say something about Tammy being here. One of the reasons Tammy's here is not only to read questions. I could probably read questions myself, but it's so you know who you're reaching out to when you reach out to us. So if you go on Sex and Relationship Healing and you click Contact Us, guess who's going to get your email? Tammy. And so for you, the person who's asking this about your husband who's passed away, I really recommend you write us a note. And maybe Tammy can find you a local community center or a therapist or something that's going on where you live, where you can talk to other women who've experienced profound betrayal. It doesn't matter whether their husbands are living or not. What matters is you've shared this experience of betrayal. And for you to get that sense of not being alone, that will help you tremendously with your grief. Really more than anything.
I thought of too is like this stuff always happens to me at 2 o'clock in the morning, you know. So I mean, like that's like if I'm going to have an issue, it's going to be in the middle of the night. So one of the things that I thought of was like writing the the anger and the hatred and the betrayal and all of that, and just putting it down on paper, sharing it, and I also developed in the 12-step rooms, I developed people that I could call at 2 o'clock in the morning and they would listen to me. So I really think about that too. But even for me, just being able to vent it out and to make it concrete, of writing it out and not necessarily writing a dead letter, just writing the raw emotion of this is how I feel in this moment, that often helped me, and included probably tears and things like that too. So I've not been through this particular situation, but just dealing with strong emotions at that time. She also asked, should I hide his betrayal from my children? I don't know how, I'm assuming they're adult children. You may want to.
Well, that's a great topic, period. Have you noticed it's getting darker in here?
Yeah, yeah.
Sun is going down.
Yeah, we used to have to deal with the light.
Well, if it gets too dark, we'll figure it out. There are a lot of questions for partners of sex addicts and couples, whether we should tell our children or not. And I do believe that there are things that you have to tell your children because they're feeling them, but you don't have to give them details. So here's a sort of general rule. With younger children under the age of, let's say, 12 or 10, or, you have to validate their experience. Yes, mom and dad are having some struggles. Yes, mom and dad have been fighting. Yes, mom and dad are angry at each other. And then you have to reassure them, it's not about you. It has nothing to do with you. It's not going to affect you. We're going to be there for you and all of that. And it is important that you do that because they feel it. And even if you think you're hiding it from them, you're not. They will feel it. Kids are smart. But I don't think I would tell a child, even an adolescent or a young adult, the sexual nature of the issue. And I have to say, it may be hard for you as a spouse. I know it's hard for you as a spouse to let your children continue to idealize their father when you know differently. But I don't think that it's your job to let them know that their father was a different man than they thought he was. It's your job to talk to therapists about that, to your sister about that, your mother about that, your pastor about that. You need support, and love, and holding, and hugs, and everything that you need for having had a husband who was a man in your life, who you loved, who was not who he said he was. But I don't think that any child is, since your children are not sitting around saying, gee, we don't think dad is who we thought he was, it's probably not helpful to tell them. I think it's okay to tell your kids, dad and I struggled, or we didn't always get along, or things weren't as good between us as you might have thought. But no child, adult or, well, certainly a young child, but no adult child wants to sit around and think about their father or mother's sex life. And especially if your parent has passed away, I think it's fine for you to say, there are many ways he disappointed me, many ways he let me down, many ways I'm still suffering with him not having been the person that I thought he was. That's all great. Say what your feelings are. But the actual sexual detail of your husband's behavior, I just don't think that belongs to your children. And and I can understand if you feel like you're holding up this legacy about him that isn't true. And I can certainly understand if you're angry, wanting to say, and I'm just going to tell those kids who their dad really was. But that's not going to help them. And in the long run, that's not going to help you either. You need to find safe places to express your anger where you'll feel supported. But just remember this, and anybody who has kids and thinks about telling them, this is not something you can untell. Once you tell your kids what's going on, and it has to do with sex and cheating, and they will never look at you or that person who's been cheating in the same way again. And it may well be that those kids need to know about it. I don't know, but be very careful. And also never, never, ever talk to children, adult or young children, when you're angry. The worst thing that I think any spouse can do is say, well, let me tell you what your father did to me. It's just, he didn't do it to them, so they shouldn't have to suffer your pain. And I'm sorry for your pain, but you don't need to bring your pain to your children. that's not good for them. Bring your pain to other adults who are your peers who can support you in it. I guess that is my best answer.
That's a good answer. You turn on light. I'm going to answer this one. Can you describe the planned drop-in groups for addicts and partners? Are they different from your Friday sessions? Yes, they're different from the Friday session. So unlike this, where it's a webinar where Rob and I am on screen and the rest of you are not, the drop-in groups will have a moderator who will kind of oversee the entire group, but they will be if you've used Zoom in the past where you can see each other, so like Rob and I can see each other, it will be that format. And there will be opportunities to connect and to speak. So we'll have one for partners, one for male sex addicts. We just had a request for female sex addicts, so I think we'll be working towards that as well. So all of this is under development. We're looking for the proper people to help moderate them, but it's coming along. There'll be one for gay men as well. So we're building it. So I hope you'll stay tuned. If you haven't registered, go ahead.
I think we'll have a group for Christian people or for people who are particularly strong religious beliefs. You know, we're going to try to meet all of your needs.
Right. That one's probably December before that one. But so if you haven't registered, like we talked about, please do so, because then you'll be in the loop and you'll see the announcement. So, okay.
And I just want to repeat, it is our goal to give you different kinds of experiences. So you're going to have this experience where we ask questions. You'll have an experience of being with peers and drop-in groups and stuff like that. You'll have an experience of being able to sit in a lecture hall and get like a half hour, an hour lecture. There are going to be all kinds of different experiences that we're rolling out for sex and relationship healing.
Yeah.
So just hang in there. We're imperfect but worthwhile.
Right. And you may fit more than one group and drop in more. So I mean, you know, it will be interesting, and we'll keep building and adding different times and topics.
We're building a community.
Exactly. So this is, I am a sex addict and a new therapist has required an SDI. That's a sexual dependency inventory assessment before I can begin group therapy. Are these helpful if I already know I'm a sex addict? You want to answer it, or you want me to?
I think you can answer that one, Tammy.
I will answer that one. So the sexual dependency inventory is a comprehensive test for a certified sex addiction therapist, CSAT, that has been trained to utilize them. It not only tells them that you are a sex addict, you know, and it's a self-assessment. So this is not like a blood test where they're going, okay, you've got this, but it helps them identify your arousal template. It helps them identify so much information that it will be beneficial to you to take the assessment, because they'll have a better idea of what's going on and how to help you in a more effective manner. So my opinion is go for it. I think you'll be happy that you did after you take it. But yeah, you're going to be sitting there for a couple of hours. So. And
I want to jump on that. When we're acting out and in our history both, there are patterns that we may not see. And this particular assessment that Dr. Carnes did is there to catch patterns that you may not notice, because when you're going through 100 questions, you may not see the pattern in the questions, but they're there. And it's really important for me as a therapist, and this may sound silly, but it's true. There are a lot of things about the acting out that are very helpful for me to know that might not even occur to you as being important. For example, I have worked with men who act out sexually, married men, with everybody in their neighborhood. Their wife's best friend, their neighbor, the person who works at the grocery store. They've had hookers back at the house. In other words, they've dirtied their whole environment with sexual acting out. I know other men who only act out when they're on the road, completely separate from home, would never act out anywhere near home or anybody. And I can also tell you that those two men have different trauma histories, and the way they're acting out their sexual problem is mirroring some of how they grew up. Those are subtleties that you probably just wouldn't be able to sit down and talk about, but that will get picked up in an instrument like that and then get talked about, which is really helpful.
Or it can take you 6 months to get around to answering a question where they're going like, I got this. So I think that's really helpful.
I would say also, like, why go see an expert unless you're going to use the expert tools? If you're going to see a sex expert, go use the tools they have. That's why they're there.
Help them do their job. Okay, so the next question is, how do you get past the guilt and shame of betraying someone? I cheated one time 3 weeks after I met my ex for the first time. We're not officially together yet, but the constant lies throughout our relationship is what hurt her the most. How do I come to terms with the guilt and pain I caused my past partner? Any tips?
Well, I wrote a book about this, to say, called Out of the Doghouse. And it's a relationship saving guide for men caught cheating. And I did it because oftentimes I think we don't know what is the right thing to do to help a partner heal. What is the right thing to do to forgive when do we feel like we've done everything we can do? In other words, when you have facing an angry partner, they're going to be angry whether you're doing the right thing or the wrong thing because they're angry. So you may not know if you're communicating in the healthiest way, being as clear as you can be, as supportive as you can be. I actually wrote a book to say, hey, this is how you handle it when you've betrayed someone. And it's called Out of the Doghouse. We even wrote a Christian version. So I don't mean to sell, I'm really not here to sell books, but I think taking a thorough inventory in a book like that and seeing how healing is laid out for a couple will help you say, oh, I think I got to give her more time, or maybe I need to say more of this, or a little bit of a guideline might help. I think also talking to other men about this is really important. I would imagine, and I'm just going to guess, that some of the guilt you feel will fade as the pain fades out of your spouse's eyes. I will also say that being obsessive and being very hard on ourselves is part of being an addict. And you're going to have to find a way to forgive what you've done, whether your spouse forgives you or not. And you're going to have to come to peace with what's happened. And that's not something that she or he can do for you. So here's a different question that I would ask you. What do you think it might take for you to forgive yourself? Because I think that is the path for you to understand the stance that you need to have with your partner. And I also know that sometimes our partners have their own issues, and they do react in ways that aren't directly related to what we've done or what's happening in the moment. It's hard to tell what's mine and what's yours until you've done some work on it. So yeah, I would say get a copy of Doghouse, go through it, say to yourself, have I treated my spouse in a way that would promote forgiveness? Have I done everything that I can to help her feel more safe with what I've done? And if you've done what you can do, then it's really time for you to find forgiveness for yourself.
I agree. Okay, so this is not a question, but a comment. This is a male. First webinar, enjoyed it. He's a sex addict and gay. I've never cheated through a relationship, but while single, I've had relationships with married or otherwise committed men. Been in recovery since 2006. I still have abandonment issues and so strong that I anticipate any long-term partner will eventually cheat or betray me in some other way. I don't want to feel controlled by this fear.
Is this a man or a woman?
Male.
So
gay male in recovery since 2006.
I really appreciate your asking the right questions. In fact, Tammy, do you want to say something about that? Because I can tell, we don't hear this every day. This is a good thing.
No, yeah. I really appreciate that. Continuing to do what I saw was I've been in recovery since 2006, but I still am not where I want to be, and I'm willing to do to continue to take. I see a lot of people that get to a certain place and go, it's good enough, and I really appreciate that this person is reaching out and going, I want to do better. And I deserve better. I deserve to be in a relationship and not feel filled with fear. So.
And just maybe I should say a little bit about abandonment fears, or your abandonment fears, or about abandonment fears. I relate to them, and I have them, and I sorry, I don't mean to move this around.
I was just saying,
I'm guessing that you're single, because it sounds like you're not in a relationship, and so I think that there are ways that we can be very deliberate about who we date, and about the likelihood that they will or won't abandon us. In other words, I think you can protect yourself in that way with a strong look at healthy dating. It's not always easy to go from being an addict of any kind into healthy dating and intimacy. Most addicts I know have problems in this area. But I really would hate it for you if you let your fears keep you from the love that you deserve. And I'm sure you deserve it. So, clearly these are therapy issues. Everyone in this room, everyone in this space, and wherever I'm meeting has intimacy disorder issues. And abandonment is an intimacy disorder issue. In fact, I don't know about you, but I can remember pushing people away who might have been a good partner for me because I was afraid that they would go away. And there I was with someone who was good for me, and I couldn't tolerate the fear of losing them, even though they were right there. And that is something that I have to work on myself. You don't want to go to a new partner with that degree of fear. But I also think it's important when you're with someone you are dating to say, you know, I have these fears and and let them know it's not something you should be alone with in a relationship.
Yeah, I like that too. And I think even just being able to say, you know, I'm feeling like this, bringing it to light so that they can go, yeah, I was pulling away a little bit, or, you know, no, I really care about you, whatever. But
Yes.
the things inside me and in my head often are not exactly reality and can be blown up exponentially. So,
I am just so certain that Tammy raised her arm and waved it because she's mad at me and she's not going to talk to me. I mean, I can make all kinds of stuff up in my head when I'm in fear. And you know, 9 times out of 10, the best thing to do is check it out.
so the person whose husband passed away, she also wrote that I feel guilty that I told mutual friends about my husband's infidelity. What should I do?
Don't tell your children because you'll feel more guilty. And you know what? You get to have people to support you. He's not here anymore. I don't think it's going to, you know, you're not talking about your children. It's important for your children to have a certain view of their dad that they can hold on to. And he's not here to talk about what he did or didn't do. So you don't want to bring that to them because they need to hold on to whatever their belief about their dad was, despite the fact that you no longer hold on to that belief. But you want to invite friends in to let them know what's going on. Don't you feel guilty about that? He's dead. He's not going to complain. You're the one who's here left with the burden that he left you with and didn't invite you in to heal. So you do whatever you need to do to get the support you need. I just wouldn't talk to his children.
And I agree. I really do hope that you find some great grief support because,
You'll rate us.
you know, and there are, like, almost every community has grief support groups, you know, across there's lots of them. So feel free to
And you are
email me
not
after
the
the
only
help.
woman you are not the only woman whose husband died and you found out
Oh,
6
no.
months a year later that there was something going on you didn't know about. I promise you that.
Yes, that is exactly true. So we're basically at time. So I'm going to, unless you have any other comments you want to share.
I just want to say to you guys that, you know, thank you for coming here. You know, your being here lets us do our work, and you're not paying us anything, and that's okay. We want to give this work away. I mean, that is the goal. But we can't give it away unless we have an audience to give it to. So thank you for showing up. Thank you for signing up. Thank you for going to the podcast and the blogs and all that. And we're going to be here week after week. I will see you if you're around Friday. I'm in the rooms. I do that at 6. Every Monday night at 6 o'clock, including this week and next, with my friend Tammy.
Exactly.
But did I hurt you, Tammy? Did I let you down? I'm thinking, oh, I must have said the wrong thing.
No, you had your finger over the microphone for a moment, though, so it was a little harder to hear you.
Oh, okay. Well, that's better than up my nose or something. All right.
Yeah, it's all good.
We're silly and stupid too. We don't know. We don't know everything. We don't know everything. Tammy, love to you, and thanks to everybody. We'll see you hopefully next week.
Thank you all. Bye.
Write us if you have questions.